Hi, my name is Natalia. I'm 35 years old and I have Common Variable Immunodeficiency. It just means I don't make antibodies. Every week I do a sub-Q plasma infusion at home, self-administered. I use the same routine every time. It helps me make sure I don't miss anything. And I start by laying out everything on a sterile cloth. I already applied lidocaine to the infusion spots, which will help dull the pain of the needles, and then cover them with Tegaderm so that it doesn't get messy. This is my plasma dose. It's 18 grams. I'm told that's a lot. Hopefully you don't need as much. These are the plasma syringes. Again, depending on how much you take, you might only need one. I use a set of 4 needles, but depending on the amount of plasma and how many sites you have will determine how many needles will work for you. This is the flow tubing. I've adjusted it a few times to make the flow of the plasma slower so my body can absorb it easier. These are gauze pads to clean off the lidocaine cream I applied earlier. The alcohol pads are used to sanitize each site before the needles. And these are the mini spikes used to draw up the plasma into the syringe. The Tegaderm I referred to earlier, which is a clear window tape that holds the needles in place. I always ask for double so I can put it over the lidocaine and then also over the needle sites. The medical tape helps to hold the needles in place for extra support. And these are your standard issued Band-Aids. You'll need 1 per site. This is my full setup. I always set it up the same way so it's consistent and it helps me not to make a mistake. Here's my infusion pump. It's a Freedom 60 manual crank. It's rather archaic, but doesn't require an electrical plug or battery, so you can do it anywhere and it makes travel easier. Now I'm opening the bottles of plasma and wiping each one with an alcohol prep pad for 10 seconds and inserting the mini spike. Some people like to wear gloves during this process, but I prefer to wash my hands really well beforehand. After the mini spike is inserted, I connect the syringe and draw up the plasma. Here's another angle for drawing the plasma into the syringe. I try to get the bubbles and air out because it can be uncomfortable if there are air bubbles in the tubing. Now it's time to connect the needle sets with the flow tubing and the syringe. Make sure to connect it the proper way because this part needs to slip into the pump. Next, we prime the tubing with the plasma. Make sure you have good lighting because you'll need to watch the tiny bubble carefully until it reaches the end. I like to make sure that no medicine comes out of the end because it irritates my skin. I also put the clamp on the main flow tube to make sure the medicine will stay in. Okay, it's time to prepare the infusion sites for inserting the needles. Remove the Tegaderm, use the gauze to wipe off the lidocaine, sterilize with the alcohol prep pads, pinch around the needle site, insert the needles. Cover the needle site with the Tegaderm to hold it in place. Unfortunately, there's a lot of medical waste with this procedure. Here is a close-up of the needle. After you insert each needle, you will need to cover it with Tegaderm and then the medical tape so it doesn't move around. This is the most important part. You need to pull the syringe back to make sure that no blood is in any of the sites. If there is blood, you'll need to remove the needle and clamp off that section of tubing. I usually use the medical tape to roll up the needle that will not be used. Now you just crank the pump back, insert the syringe, and turn it on. The process takes me about 3 hours total, so I typically put on a movie to watch mindlessly. Nothing stressful or scary, and nothing that you have to pay attention to because sometimes my memory during the infusion is a little hazy. That's the process. A special thank you to my medical team who helped me identify this disease and treatment. I hope it's as successful for you as it has been for me. Feel free to leave comments or questions.